Joining me now is real estate expert Deidre Woollard. Deidre, always a pleasure to see you and welcome back to the program. I know there's been a little bit of time that we haven't seen you. Glad to have you back.
Glad to be here.
Yep. And today we're going to talk about mortgage rates. There's apparently a bit of a squeeze, but let's level set. We're in May, so middle of May, thereabouts. How are we doing with mortgage rates relative to where they have been year over year?
Well, year over year, we're in a pretty good place. Where last year around this time, mortgage rates were 6.7, 6.8. We're down to 6.2, 6.3, depending on where you go. But that's not, it's good. It's better, but it's not where to the point where it's really prompting a serious movement in home sales.
So before we get into home sales and the numbers there, I want to ask you what outside of and we've got a new Fed chairman, right? That's
Coming
going to
in,
replace
yes, Kevin Warsh.
Kevin Warsh is going to be. But outside of what the Fed does, and that has some level of repercussions in the mortgage industry, what about the geopolitical events? What's happening in the Middle East? What's happening with the Ukraine and Russia? Does that play a role at all in mortgage rates?
I think the biggest way it plays a role is uncertainty. We've got uncertainty all over the place. Geopolitically, as you've mentioned, with inflation, the CPI and PPI numbers came out, and they're showing that inflation is continuing to rise. We don't have the handle on it that we'd like to. So, all of those factors absolutely contribute because lenders have to feel secure and buyers have to feel secure in order for the whole thing to work. And that's just not where we are at right now.
No, there's a lot of, I mean, you see it in the stock market. I think you see it in oil prices and
Yeah.
gasoline prices and food prices. There's a lot of uncertainty. And we all, I mean, you, me, everybody, my mother and dad, everybody sees this. Okay. So those are things we can't control. Well, not necessarily control. Those are out of our day-to-day control. So let me ask you about these mortgage rates, and let me ask you about the starter home. Is that dead now based on the 6.2, 6.3% interest rate?
I would say the starter home has been, if not dead, dying for a while, partly because not just because of the mortgage rates and because of home prices, which are still at a high. I mean, the median price is over $417,000. And that doesn't reflect the starter home price in cities. Zillow's numbers show that a lot of starter homes in some cities are over $1 million. But we're also seeing something different happen. We're seeing that people are buying later. NAR's numbers on first-time home buyers, average age of 38. That was not the case 2 or 3 decades ago. And really, first-time home buyers are a smaller part of the market. So the starter home is now becoming really the home you stay in for 10 years or more.
So it's your home. It's the
It's your
starter
home.
home. We've removed starter. We have home. So you kind of hinted at this, but let me ask you about the generational trends because people are, as you stated, based on the data, 38 years old is the average new home buyer, or first-time home buyer. There's that's I guess, millennial, late Gen Z, whatever, early Gen Z. How has this changed across the generations? Because boomers are staying in their homes longer.
Well, the interesting thing is that the median age of the repeat home buyer is 63. So that means that people are staying in their homes longer and then making that shift later when they need to downsize. But the other interesting thing that's happening among Gen Z is that over a third of Gen Z buyers are single women. So there's something happening with single women they're not waiting for marriage. They're not waiting for children. They're not doing things in that traditional order that we used to see. If they can afford it, they're getting the house when they're financially ready.
So does that mean that maybe they're more financially savvy? They're earning good wage. They realize that your home is a big asset. It's probably the biggest asset, maybe even bigger than their 401k. So are they more financially literate, I guess, is my question.
I often wonder what's going on there. To some extent, I think there is a difference. There is a male-female divide in terms of where the money goes, in terms of men, potentially younger men, feeling more comfortable investing in the stock market or investing in things like crypto. Uh,
Hmm.
some women are more interested in something that feels more secure, like purchasing a home.
Yeah, and or I was going to make a snide comment about sports betting because I don't know if you've been
Oh,
following
it's a
that at
big
all,
problem.
Deidre.
Yes.
That is growing. I mean,
Hmm.
not to take us off but let's talk about that for a second. Gambling, sports betting, a lot of younger people, men and women, by the way,
Yes.
are doing that. Younger men and women are doing sports betting.
Not just
That's a
sports betting, Kalshi, Polymarket, betting on everything.
Yeah, they're betting on like political outcomes. They're betting on whether or
Hmm.
not somebody is going to hit a three-pointer.
Yeah.
But that back to the financial literacy conversation and the home buying conversation, I kind of see that as more of a distraction than, I mean, you're not going to be a gazillionaire or even a millionaire, typically sports betting. You're going to lose more than you win.
Well, some of this is about that uncertainty factor. If you don't feel like your job is secure, if you don't feel like your future is secure, if you feel like you've already lost ground compared to where your parents were, you start looking for the moonshot. You figure, I'm not going to get there using the same path that my parents used. I have to try something different. And so that path toward home ownership and security doesn't necessarily look like it played out the way that they thought it would. So they're trying other things.
But aren't there, and I want to get your perspective on this, just from a financial perspective, aren't there just certain tenets that work? The power of compounding, you save money, and they may not be making gobs and gobs of money. I mean, we can get into the whole AI conversation about how that's it's making it harder for people out of college to get jobs. But there are certain basic principles that if you start saving early, you're going to have more money than if you started waiting, right? And of course, you've got to have that discretionary income.
Well, this is very true, but you've also seen these younger people saw, they saw 2008. They've seen these things that you believed in go belly up, and that has scarred them to some extent. And a home should be a good investment, but it's not always necessarily the best investment or the best way to spend to where to put your money. I mean, I'm with you. I believe in compounding, in saving early and slowly and watching that build, putting things in an index fund, but that takes a long time and young people aren't known for their patience.
No, they're not. But I go back to, you mentioned 2008. I go back to the Great Depression. My grandparents lived through the Great Depression. Now they're deceased, of course, but it shaped who they were, but they
Hmm.
scrounged and saved. And so is it about maybe expectations? Maybe the expectations for all of us that interest rates are going to be so low, that a house is going to appreciate at some rate, that we're going to earn some level of interest and our 401ks are going to be X, Y, and Z. Maybe the expectations are here when in reality they need to be lower. Um, is that part of it? So realigning our expectations.
I think that's definitely true. And I think that is very true when it comes to the starter home, because the starter home may not look like a yard and what we think of as a traditional, like a small two-bedroom house. It may be a condo, it may be a townhouse. One of the other factors about the starter homes is that home builders, they're not building starter homes because the margins, they have to keep their margins. And if you're
Yeah.
going to be built, getting the land, getting it doesn't take that much more to build a bigger house, and the margins are bigger. So of course they're going to build bigger houses. So part of it is that we have to reframe what a starter home looks like and when that comes into our lives.
As we close out this segment, let me ask you, we actually started off the conversation talking or involving Kevin Warsh as the new Federal Reserve Chairman. Jerome Powell, I think, is going to stay on the Board of Governors as a
Mhm.
governor. But what do you look for as an expert in interest rates and mortgage rates upon the ascension of Kevin Warsh? Because he was approved. So when he starts, what are you going to be looking for in terms of, I mean, this is a very intricate question, so I'm not expecting like like a 10-minute answer. But what are you going to be looking for in terms of Fed policy and what that means for mortgage rates?
One of the things that Powell always stressed was that the Fed is not political. I hope Warsh will keep to that. I mean, Warsh is a person who has a lot of experience, a lot of years dealing with these sorts of things. He was integral in the 2008 crisis and helping us navigate out of that. The most important thing is whether or not he listens to the data, or whether or not he listens to political forces. And hopefully he listens to the data and doesn't immediately drop interest rates, because I don't think that's going to be beneficial for the economy. We need to look at it. Certainly, the last Fed meeting, the Board of Governors was definitely mixed in their voting about what should happen next. And so he's going to have to listen to all of the Board of Governors. Powell has said he's going to play a quiet role, and I think that's right. We just need Warsh to be able to listen to all of the governors.
Yeah, I think that's going to be very interesting, because you got some folks that are hawkish. I'm not in those meetings, of course, and I just read the minutes, but there's going to be some people that are hawkish. You're going to have that's part of the Fed chairman job, is to, you're almost like the president in a certain way of this central bank. You've got to listen to all these, they're 12 governors. So you got to listen to them, and they're all going to be on different sides of the issue depending on what their beliefs are.
Absolutely.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Deidre, I thought we were just going to talk about the mortgage squeeze. We did. But then we got into maybe some other things that I think were pretty exciting. We always appreciate having you on the program, and we look forward to having you back again very soon.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for watching. And don't forget, we're back again tomorrow morning with another great expert and another great topic. You can tune in right here Monday through Sunday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place, delivered directly to your email box. Check it out at our website.